welcome back to Life of Birch. This is Birch, and I just realized I just got done filming a really cool intro for you guys at the storage unit with all the bikes, and then I realized that the Rebel 1100 is showing throughout pretty much the entire thing, and I can't show it because you guys have no idea the big stuff, the big changes that I've made to the Rebel 1100 over the past couple weeks. But stay tuned because there will be a video unveiling the Rebel 1100 version 2.0 here in the next week or two. So hopefully I found a way to censor the bike out so I can still keep the cool intro. But either way, we are on the CL or SCL500 today. We have 128 miles on this bad boy already, and the modifications have already begun. As you know, we just put the Vance & Hines exhaust on it, so I figured today would be a good day to get out before it starts raining and head downtown for a little moto vlog action and tell you guys about, I guess, the plans that we have for the CL500. What is next for the CL500 now that we finally have it? I don't know if it'll show through the camera how ominous the sky is looking over there, but it is not looking great. I know it was supposed to storm, but it already stormed randomly out of nowhere about an hour ago, and I thought that was it, but we might be in for a little surprise. You know what's great about a Scrambler? The fact that you have the Scrambler seating position and foot pegs, and I can just stand up and look around like this super comfortably. I could probably do it on the Rebel 1100, but I would not advise it. So let me just start off by saying that this thing has been an absolute freaking blast so far, and lots of you guys have asked me like how I feel about it, like a quick little review or whatever, and obviously long-term reviews will come out in due time, but I gotta say so far, dude, it is incredible. People ask me how it compares to the Rebel 1100, and that is just not even a fair comparison at all. They don't, like, they're just totally built for different purposes. They have nothing to do with each other, so it's not really a fair comparison at all. Obviously the Rebel 1100 is just so much more powerful, has so much more tech, like just designed for longer distances, whatever, so you can't even compare it. But I will say that if and when Honda comes out with a CL1100, like the Rebel motor slash Africa Twin motor in a Scrambler, my Rebel 1100 might be in trouble. So the Rebel 1100 to this is no comparison, but people also ask about the Rebel 500 versus the Scrambler 500. That's not even a contest, dude. No contest at all in my eyes. The Scrambler all day, all day, all day, all day, if for no reason other than the seating position, how much more room you have, how much more relaxed and comfortable it is, and the suspension. The suspension is so much better than the Rebel. This thing handles so much better than the Rebel. It's just, yeah. Okay, so damn, it's kind of popping off down here today. I didn't expect it to be this popping for how hot it is and humid and the storm coming in and such. All right, so what do we have planned with the SCL500? Now, you're gonna have to kind of keep up with me here because I'll explain it afterwards, but I have two words for you, okay? Street Crackler. That's right, Street Crackler. Now, what the f am I talking about, Street Crackler? When I was, did she just almost trip? I don't want to make fun of her, but I'm pretty sure she just almost tripped and that was funny. So when I was trying to figure out what to do with this bike, I was kind of torn between a few different options. What's up, buddy? I was torn between a few different options because obviously this thing is a Scrambler, so it's meant for Scrambler activities, you know, some light off-roading, some commuting duties, blah, blah, blah. And that made me want to kind of put some beefier tires on it, put a skid plate on the bottom of it to make it more like off-road, gravel road accessible. But then I was like, I don't know, like cafe racers are super dope, and this almost just feels like a taller cafe racer, you know? Like on the back you even have the little seat loop right there already, kind of like cafe racer-esque. The seat looks cafe racer-esque, and I was like, oh, I could like make it a cafe racer, maybe do like a low mount exhaust instead of the tall exhaust or whatever. And then I was like, wait a second, you know what's been piquing my interest lately that's super dope? Trackers. Trackers are so sick, like dirt track racers or whatever, like no front brake, only rear brake, just bare bones, like racing shit, you know? And I was so like torn between like, okay, should I do a Scrambler? Should I do a cafe racer? Should I do a tracker? And then I thought, you know what? What about a street-oriented tracker meets cafe racer meets Scrambler? And that's where I came up with the term Street Crackler. What that looks like, I'm not entirely sure. All I know is that it feels like a really good idea. These people in front of us just feel like me and Nina when we're on the nav. Oh, what? Dude, it said it was in neutral. So I let the clutch out and it stalled. I guess it wasn't all the way in neutral. This thing has been a little bit weird a couple times. Like I go to put it down into first and it like stays in neutral. I don't know, it's a little weird. Thank you. I can only imagine how hot these ladies are baking out here in the sun. It's a heat index of like 95 or something like that, maybe more today. So yeah, we're gonna take cues from a little bit of everything. I'll put some pictures up here of some other orange cafe racer type vibes that I've seen before that I want to kind of draw inspiration from, and kind of do our own little twist, you know, like hooligan racer off-road cafe. And obviously right now there's not a whole lot of aftermarket support for this thing yet. It only hit the States a few weeks ago, but hopefully some of them will watch this video and take some cues from the street Crackler vibes and start making some parts that kind of fall in line with that. But on the bright side, this 500 motor has been out for so long that I'm sure it shouldn't be too difficult to kind of pull parts from other 500 bikes and use that to kind of get the desired results. So there's been a bunch of people, once I put the exhaust on, saying like, oh, I was looking at this bike and I really wanted to do a low mount exhaust, and I think I kind of mentioned that as well, doing like a low mount exhaust instead of the high Scrambler exhaust, especially because it seems like it might get in the way of a passenger, or not really get in the way, but burn the ever-loving hell out of them. And at first I was like, oh, that might be possible. We could just put a Shorty GP exhaust on the header and that'll work. But if you've seen the exhaust video, then you already, okay, people, what in the is going on today? But yeah, so anyway, if you saw the exhaust video, then you know already that where the header exits into the muffler, it's way bigger than all the other 500s for some reason, so that wouldn't work. But it got me thinking, I'll probably stick with the Vance & Hines exhaust because it sounds so good and I think it looks incredible. But if anybody watching this has a CL500 and wants to kind of pioneer the way, what I thought of is that you can get a header for either a Rebel 500 or a CB500X, swap out the header, and then you'll have a more normal orientation of where the header exits into the muffler and like the normal diameter, and just put a Shorty exhaust on that and boom, you have a low mount exhaust. The only issue though is that, let me pull over to show you guys in case you have not seen the other video. So the issue is that since it comes stock with the high mount exhaust, it has the bracket for the high mount exhaust here, and Honda welded it onto the frame. So if you do a different header and do some sort of like low mount exhaust, you'll have this big old thing right here. So maybe like use these mounting points to put a number plate there to cover it or something like that. But I mean, it would be possible to do a low mount exhaust, but I've been super stoked on this thing so far, so it stays for now. And then I think one of the first things up on the dockets for changing is going to be the mirrors first and foremost. These mirrors are just insane. Like, I feel like they're pretty normal mirrors, but the fact that the rest of the bike looks so low and long, every time I look at this bike, especially from the front angle, these mirrors just look like freaking bug antennas sticking up. And yeah, those are definitely going to go. I already got mirrors for it, if I'm being honest, and I got different grips already. These grips are a little bit weird because they're like smooth on the top, but then have like a, I don't know, like a grid pattern on the bottom, and the bars are only 7/8, so I don't know, I got big hands, so it feels like I'm like wrapping around the bar 3 times just to hold on to it. So I'll be putting some thicker grips on there, some different mirrors, and the mirrors are going to be more, turn signal, the mirrors are going to be more like cafe oriented probably. What are we doing today, dude? And then of course the next big thing that we have to consider is, what are we doing with the rear fender? The rear fender is absolutely atrocious, and we knew that from the jump, but we weren't not as aware of it because the exhaust was so big, it drew our eyes to it. But now that we have this other exhaust on it and the exhaust is smaller and whatever, I feel like it's so much more obvious how just ugly the fender is. Not necessarily the fender, but the lights on it, which I feel like calls for another hopping off the bike to show it to you. But joke's on you, maybe this is just an excuse for me to stop in the shade because I'm burning up. Okay, so if you look at this, before the stock exhaust took up like this whole space and it was so ugly that your eyes went straight to that. Now that we have this new exhaust on there, obviously that doesn't happen and you're just focusing on this, which is hideous. The fender itself doesn't look bad, it's just we need to figure out something with the lights that looks way cleaner. But the issue is that even if you wanted wanted to keep the fender, it's like, how do you do that? Because there's a hole in it here and down here. So there's a hole where like the wires pass through here, and then there's a hole here for the bracket because the fender itself is just plastic. So then you have to decide, okay, do we get rid of the entire fender and figure out a light that goes here or underneath? Or do we take this thing off and then somehow trim the fender to just come to here, you know, something like that, so you still keep a short fender and have a little bit of action there? Because I feel like if you just take the whole fender off and all you have is the loop right there, then it gives off cafe racer vibes. But if you keep a little bit of the fender on there, then it keeps like Scrambler vibes, you know? So I got to figure out what to do there. I think it would look best with the fender just completely gone, but I feel like it wouldn't be as functional for any time that I'm riding and get caught in the rain, or like if I want to do some light off-roading like we were saying. Obviously I don't want rocks getting thrown up at my back and whatever, so some sort of fender would be good. But then it comes down to, okay, so if we leave the fender on but cut it short, is it even going to have enough protection to make it worth it versus just totally taking it off, you know? What the hell am I looking at? Is this? That's not a house. That's their house, and this is a she shed? A she shed wedding thing? A she shed church? It feels like they rent that out for like Hansel and Gretel weddings. What the hell? How have I never seen this before? This is wild. I can't even get a bearing for where I am right now though, but what the heck? Ooh, hopefully you guys saw that reflection of me in the glass. That sounded pompous, but you know what I mean? Like, you guys ever like go past a big window or something like that and you just like catch a glimpse of yourself and you're like, damn, I look badass. This bike looks awesome and I look awesome on it, because that's what just happened to me. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it for this one. I know it probably wasn't a super exciting video as I'm looking around trying to figure out what else I want to do to this thing. Probably wasn't a super exciting video, but yeah, I've just gotten lots of questions about what's next with the CL500, what modifications we have coming for it, what the plans are, blah blah blah. So I figured I would fill y'all in. Leave some comments below and let me know what you think I should do to it, or maybe what you would do to a CL500 if you had one. I'd love to hear your opinions, especially those of you who already own like a CB500X or maybe the CB500F, because you might know about, you know, suspension or stuff like that I don't know about. Shout out to the Patreon members for making all of this possible. I really could not be doing this without y'all, and if you want to support the channel in the biggest and best way possible, and hopefully ideally help me get a Life of Birch garage so we don't have to like wait out the rain and everything and blah 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 blah, you know the drill. Check out patreon.com/lifeofbirch where you can pledge your monthly amount and get behind the scenes access, early access to videos, etc., and yeah, do all the YouTube stuff, likes and comments and all that, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Love you guys. Oh wait, this guy's letting us go, so my hands on the clutch. Peace.
Oh, so basic. Hope you play this. Damn, I prayed it. Nice song, and I became this. Old souls fake it. Paid those placements. Fuck shit. And I'm still waiting on the brighter days. Been a minute, been rough many times more. And I'm kicking rocks to a sky of gray. Praying hard, talk to me before I'm done for.